And before we start, though, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, acknowledging that that's right across Aotearoa and Australia, so many different groups, and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Welcome to the meeting. This is an evolving event, if you like. It started, for those who don't know, as an online meeting before COVID of institutional coordinators in Melbourne, and in the last little while we've realised that actually it might be of value to people across ATEM, and have opened it up to everybody, and it's meant to be fairly relaxed and informative and useful. So without further ado, today we've got Sophie and Tony to introduce the professional development program.
Some of this before, but what I'm going to give is an update on where we are in terms of how we've approached developing the professional development program or schedule of events and workshops this year. It's not to say it's finished, and it's a work in progress, but to give you a bit of a background and then a kind of summary of what's coming up. So I suppose under the leadership of ML, we've taken a slightly different approach this year in terms of putting together the program. We wanted to make it a much more coherent program across the year, rather than, certainly last year we were working in our different regions and it was quite difficult to bring that all together. So Tony, Kathy Carey, who's in the Queensland area, and myself have got together following a meeting with Margaret and ML to kind of map out what it might look like as a coherent program across the year. And the goal really was to kind of build on some of the things we've learned, obviously through COVID. One of the big things was actually the delivery of online workshops. So obviously prior to COVID, really we were delivering different things in different regions, because it was basically face-to-face. The online offerings that we have delivered have been very successful. So building on that, we focused a lot on offering workshops that will be available right across Australasia. Secondly, we wanted to align it with the ATEM leadership framework. And I know that Tony has talked about this with the institutional coordinators before. So I won't go into that in detail, but I'll talk a little bit about it in the presentation. Thirdly, there needed to be a clear member value proposition. And fourthly, whatever we do has to be sustainable. We're quite a small team, and we need to make sure it's sustainable and financially sustainable more than anything else in terms of. So firstly, in terms of building on success, as I've said, we've really focused on online delivery. But we've also focused on retaining some of those flagship programs. So for instance, the Middle Managers program, and a stream really of some free member hot topic events that would draw the members in. So secondly, as I said, aligning it with the framework. And this is a kind of summary of that ATEM capability framework, which is based on the research of Jeff Scott and a report that was done for ATEM a number of years ago. What that's meant in reality for the program is focusing really on capability development and how people are going to survive, respond to the environment that they're working in at the moment. Thirdly, we talked a lot about member value proposition. And so what we decided to do is focus on some key current and contemporary topics. And we've looked at that in terms of a number of themes. Leadership, particularly transformational leadership, or change, focusing on change and dealing with complexity. We focused on understanding the sector. When we were talking with the Professional Development Committee at the end of last year, they also focused on the fact, okay, this is the one thing, the one kind of big differential for us is that what we are is by the sector for the sector, and really can offer something across the board that maybe individual institutions don't offer. There's another theme around managing your career, a theme around professional skills, and that covers things like committee management, professional communication, change management, project management. And then a fifth theme around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, as we talked to the Professional Development Committee, their feeling was that while this was an important theme, it may well be that's also a theme that's covered quite well by individual institutions already. So as we go through the year, what we will try and do is fold that into as many of the offerings and workshops that we're delivering, and kind of look at them all through that DEI lens, rather than necessarily having a whole stream focused on DEI. And then, as I said, that will be underpinned by some free member events. And one thing is the patrons panels. So our two patrons, so Professor Barney Glover and Professor Jan Thomas, are both quite keen to be involved, and have actually said that they would do a patrons panel every other month. So we will be able to focus some of our key members events around those.
Just before you go on, Sophie, the other thing in the sort of where people are getting together would be local events organised in different regions. So that again gets an opportunity for face-to-face, in person.
Yeah.
We might come back to that at the end of Sophie's presentation. Yeah. Talk about how ICs can get involved in doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Margaret. And the fourth point was around financial sustainability, really. So whatever we deliver needs to be simple. We're trying to map it out for the year. Obviously, things can be fitted in as we go. We want to focus on priority areas and streamline the back end in terms of systems and processes. So again, this is a kind of summary of those 5 proposed themes and some examples of what we're thinking about would sit under those themes. But in a moment, I will actually pull up another document which gives you an idea of where we're at in terms of the first quarter and what we might be thinking about in those different areas. And again, supported with members' events, the patrons' panels, and then I'm sure that a number of you know that TEMC will not be delivered in the same way as it has been in previous years, but the plan is to have 2 main conferences, one that would focus on the kind of student side of things, and the other that would focus on the staff side of things, one in the first half, the other in the second half of the year. There is also a finance managers conference planned for June. So that's the end of the presentation, but what I would like to do is just pull up another document which gives you an idea of what we've got planned there for First quarter. Sorry, I might be looking. Okay, so this is just really to give people an idea. And I know that there will be an EDM going out shortly, kind of promoting the first things that are up. But the themes here are in the first column, color coded. But this is ordered by date. So up in February, for instance, we've got a managing your career session on setting yourself up for success. We've got a session in the 14th of February around how to manage your career through menopause. We've got an introduction to project management. We've got a workshop around compliance and what we need to know about and why we need to know about compliance. We've got our Women in Higher Education Leadership Symposium planned for the 16th of March, very similar to what we did last year. We're thinking about launching the whole kind of managing your career with a session around kind of what the research says, particularly for professional staff in terms of managing their career. A session on priority management. We've got some leadership sessions, one around leader as coach, one around embracing integrated approaches to mental health, and then a number that focus on understanding the sector, academic integrity, the academic professional divide. I'm not going to talk through it, but this is really just to give you kind of an idea as we go through the year of the type of things that will be coming up. We've definitely got a middle managers program coming up in June in Australia, and we're planning one in Wellington, New Zealand in August. Okay, that's probably enough from me. I'll just open it up to any questions or any contributions from the rest of the team.
It certainly looks very exciting, and I really like the colour coding. But it also gives you an idea of the breadth of the offerings. One thing I wanted to ask was, in the past, we've promoted the fact that some of our PD offerings can be offered at an institution and customised for that institution. Are we intending to go offer that or a version of that in 2023?
Tony, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Look, anything that we offer publicly, if there was sufficient demand in an institution to make it viable, we would be happy to negotiate. If it's presented by ATEM people, and that makes it a lot easier, but where we've got external partners, we're also happy to work that through. And in some cases, it might be that we just pass on the details and what have you, and then you work directly with them. Otherwise, other times we'll act more as a broker and work through it, just depending on what the needs are of the institutions.
Actually, we've certainly, Tony, so one of the sessions that is planned is a sort of introduction to the sector. And Tony has certainly offered that specifically tailored to one university, so that's an example of where we have done that.
Yep.
There's some questions coming through.
Oh, yes, Veronica. And then Martin.
Hello, I'm Veronica from UTS. I really like the idea of having what looks like it used to be the Student Service Centres conference broadened out to some of those other areas of student admin in its broad sense, because I can see there's a need for it for some of the emails that I've received. So I really like that. So the rest looks fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice feedback.
You've got your
Yeah.
hand up.
Thanks, Veronica.
Oh, look, also, so Martin McCarran, University of Adelaide currently, some kind of new university maybe later on this year if we merge with UniSA, but I won't go there. So one, just looks like a great range of opportunities there, great coverage. I think that's wonderful. A question though around that student experience conference, and I think that looks like a great focus. What's the thinking about what that will cover? And I see it's penciled in for May. Is there yet an idea of exactly where that's going to be?
Are any of us in the position to answer that? Are you, Tony or Margaret?
Just to the extent that it's not likely to be Adelaide, but it could well be if you wanted to take the lead on it. We've yet to get the committee going. As Margaret was saying, we've got informal discussions happening already, but it's just a matter of really getting moving on it. We need to move fairly quickly on that and get things happening. My understanding was you'd probably end up with a number of core plenary sessions and then some streams around different interest groups. And so there's a reasonable amount involved in organising that and having people to help manage each part of it.
Okay, Leanne had her hand up. I feel like a teacher.
My question was similar to the one that Alison just popped in the chat. In how far in advance can the schedule be provided? Because there are some really exciting events. It'd be great. The more time we have, the more we can promote them. And I'm only fairly still new in this role. And one of the problems I had was not enough time to get things into the organization's newsletter and things like that. So if we could have, even if it was the first 6 months and the second 6 months, then I could at least put reminders in, and I could have like dates on the calendar on a SharePoint site and things like that, and get them to the marketing team so that they can get them in the right newsletters prior to the events. And secondly, the other thing that would help me, and I sent an email about this last year, is if I could have a list of all my organization's members so that I can contact them and who my champions are, like who owns the membership. And I know because there's free passes as well, which I don't even know if we're utilizing that with an institutional membership. So I just want to know who they are so I can network with them and then start promoting things and using that and trying to get it off the ground a bit more, because we're not really doing anything at the moment.
Okay, cool. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PD programs on our events page at the moment. They're kind of all happening fairly early. And the others will be released ASAP as soon as Sophie and Tony are able to confirm dates. What we really want to do is, as you say, publish ahead of time so that there's time for planning and raising awareness that stuff is coming up and will be available. So we'll be getting out emails and other publicity starting in the next few days, but promoting things as early as possible.
Just to further to what Margaret was saying, I would envisage that within the next week to 10 days, we'll have a lot of the forward calendar, probably for the first half of the year, finalised. We've just been negotiating dates and what have you with some of the facilitators. The Middle Managers Program that Sophie mentioned in Australia, 4th to the 7th of June in the Gold Coast. So buy your tickets now and come up for a nice, to the Gold Coast for a nice warm conference. So we're just in the throes of getting those all together. And as Margaret also indicated, we'll have a EDM going out shortly with those that are confirmed already.
And Margaret, you can provide Leanne with that information she wants about her institution.
Yep.
Yep, great. So you've made a note. That's fantastic. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
I've got I've got one question, Sally, for people. And it comes back to, you know, the discussion around, I know Margaret said there'll be calls going out for volunteers, etc. But also, you know, if any of you know of anybody in your institutions that would be a fantastic presenter, or any particular hot topics that you would like covered, please let us know. One of the things that's bothering me as we're working on this is, I think like 99% of the presenters are white women. I don't think that's ideal, and that's not intentional, but you know, so anybody you know, anybody you've heard, or you've been, you know, you've been to a presentation or etc., please let us know, so that we can reach out to them.
Great.
It'd be really helpful.
Well, I think that's been a great kick-off meeting, and I'm excited about 2023. All right, well, thanks everybody. I'm excited. I hope you are, and we'll see you next month.
Wonderful. Bye, everyone.